Wow, look at that intro. That's crazy. Hey, well.
Effects. I was not prepared for that. I'm a little queasy in the stomach, actually.
It does not take much to entertain us, I guess.
That would like, ooh, ah.
Folks, you're watching two cognitively impaired hosts on a show called No Apologies, which is on a channel that we call Beck.
Easily amused as well.
I'm still going to follow the tagline, where we are unafraid to speak the truth. I'm your host,
are.
Rick Becker, co-host Lori Hintz.
Hi
We'll
there.
get back to some semblance of order.
I just feel like I would need to put
All right.
my arms up in the air or something.
So we've got a great guest for you tonight. We are going to keep him for 3 segments, unless he runs out after
Worth
2.
it.
We'll see. But it's going to be a lot of interesting information, in particular about energy in North Dakota. And then we've got kind of a mishmash of updates I think you're going to find really interesting for our final segment tonight. First, we're going to talk about Chile.
This is an interesting thing.
Chile.
And this is not, this is not like the thing that you love to eat in the wintertime. We're talking about the country, Chile. And we are talking about it just simply because there were a number of articles that have come out recently about Chile. And so we thought we would touch on the comparison between Chile and what is happening in the United States.
Yeah, I think there's a very interesting correlation. So as you know, Chile is, I'm going to say Chile, because that's what I've said my whole life.
Right.
Chile is in South America. Right. And it's a very interesting country because it went through, politically speaking, because it went through some very significant changes in the 70s and then more recently, all of which are during my experience. So each of those situations back in the early to mid 70s and then more recently in the 2000s have, I think, some correlation with what we are seeing in the United States. So if we go back, there is an article from Hoover Institution, and this article came out in 2007, so it is in no way written because of what's going on in the United States today.
But yet prescient.
Yes, it is, your favorite word. The thing is that in Chile, they had a democracy, but the problem was that things were going haywire. The leftists were starting to take control. The communists were starting to take control. The communists were considered the more conservative of the alliance of people. And essentially the left was causing their democracy to become more of an ochlocracy, which I've not used before.
I have not heard of that word before.
That's a term that means mob rule in essence. And there was a president of Chile, Allende, and what happened is they just kind of took advantage of the situation and they took control. Far leftists. They started taking control and ignoring the people and ignoring what was going on in the elections.
That's interesting that you should say that.
Yes, exactly.
Somewhat applies.
They actually had, in Chile, they started taking over the education system. They interjected themselves in every facet of Chilean society. They started setting up autonomous zones. They didn't call, I don't think they called them autonomous zones, but they had zones within cities where the far leftists controlled things. And it broke down their society so much. And rapidly, that a military coup took place in 1973 by Pinochet.
You probably heard that name before, actually. There was a lot of press about Pinochet at the time, I remember.
Right, so in this regard, it's similar to what's happening now. We've got far leftists taking over, infiltrating every segment of society, breaking down democracy in a sense in the name of democracy, even going so far as having the similarities of these autonomous zones. And what happens is that the fabric of society broke down so much that a military coup took place. Pinochet came in. He was an authoritarian. And from what I understand, fairly brutal. Now, this is what the left was claiming was happening or going to happen with Trump. It didn't. It didn't by any means. Did he expand executive power? Certainly he did, just like Obama did and just like Biden is apparently doing to a great degree. But authoritarian, no. However, Pinochet was authoritarian.
Cruel.
And cruel and had some human rights violations.
Tortured and murdered people. His legacy is Latin America's, you know.
To me, it's an interesting dichotomy because he was authoritarian and cruel and was a dictator. But from an economic standpoint, it's really weird because he brought in the Chicago boys. So we're talking about the people in the United States at that time that were strong proponents of free markets and Austrian economics. He brought them in, and despite his authoritarian approach, brought in free market changes.
So good and not so good at the same time.
Right. That's why I'm so confused
It is confusing.
on all of this.
It is really weird.
And so the it's essentially what happened is this authoritarian dictator came in, decided to bring in the Chicago boys, free market policies. Chile in South America became the jewel of all of Latin America, South America, Central America. It flourished, absolutely flourished. And what is so odd then, after all this time, he handed power over peacefully. It's not something you would expect. It's something we're taught is not going to happen, but there's a difference between authoritarian, and which I'm not advocating, by the way, folks.
Glad to hear that.
I'm just saying that we're, just historically, there's totalitarian, like we see in Cuba and so many other communist regimes, and there was this authoritarian where he took over, but then brought in a free economy, and then handed over power. So let's go to the Stephen Moore is a great writer. And he had an article more recently, just in March of 2021, which is what brought this to our attention.
Right, exactly.
And let's bring up a graphic we have from Stephen Moore from CNS News. Between 75, keep in mind the military coup is in 1973. Between 1975 and 2015, per capita income in Chile quadrupled, the highest rate in Latin America. As a result, from the early 80s to 2014, poverty fell from 45 to 8%.
Which is an amazing drop. That number is just unheard of.
It is phenomenal. We're talking about 30 years here. I mean, that is amazing. Let's go to the next graphic.
The Marxists invented a narrative of inequality. The rich were getting richer and the poor were getting poorer, and capitalism is evil. Gee, I've never heard of that before. They infiltrated all of Chile's cultural institutions, the media, the schools, the universities, just as you said, the Catholic Church, the arts, the unions, and even the corporate boardrooms.
Yeah. So what happened over that time after the Chilean dictator came in and brought in free market, they had a low, flat tax. They had extensive property rights. They had privatization of Social Security. They had complete deregulation of their industries. This is what made them flourish. This is what brought everyone in the entire country of Chile up, from the poor to the rich. They excelled. But then what happened is that the left came in and they cried foul, and they said, wait a minute, despite the fact that everyone's really fantastic compared to a few years ago, there's income inequality. And they used income inequality to try and divide. Again, so now we're coming around to what's happening in America now. They used income inequality to divide their country. And with that, they were very successful in bringing about this discontent, this victimization of the various segments of society, which we are seeing happening now to a T.
Yep. So the contrast and the comparison to Chile is very stark. I mean, it's very obvious.
No, it is. It absolutely is. So that's the thing that we have to look at now is, we aren't, the left might have said, hey, Chile is a great comparison because Trump's in and now he's going to be the authoritarian. That didn't happen. But we are now at this second comparison where the left is crying foul and dividing us as a nation, the oppressors and the victims, and the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. And they're setting it up to say we need to get away from capitalism because capitalism is evil. They say that capitalism is the source of racism, which is why they say racism exists everywhere in everything, in every action. And if we could only do away with capitalism, with property rights.
Well, you repeat that lie long enough and enough times and people believe it.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And so what's happened is Chile is in a free fall. Because of the leftists taking over, they've changed their constitution. Looking here, I forget what year it was, but they changed their constitution now so that it goes away from free markets, it goes away from property rights, away from free speech rights, and it is now more in line with what the leftists want, with their idea of egalitarianism, where everyone is equal, from those that are able to those that are in need. And what the problem is that was once the jewel of all of Latin America is crashing down, and this is what we have to look forward to if we don't stop things.
Watch and learn from the past.
We have to stop things right now. All right, folks, stick with us. We're going to have some great segments with Geoff Simon. We'll tell you who he is, what he's about, coming right up. Stick with us.
When you can't find answers to your recurring health challenges, it can feel like your health and your future are being held hostage. The Wellness Way is a network of health restoration clinics that think and act differently to solve the health challenges others can't. Here, we disrupt the standard approach to care through a combination of testing, individual plans, and one-on-one guidance, putting your health and your future where they belong, in your own hands.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Every great pizza has a secret. At New York To Go, that secret lies in our perfectly recreated New York water, the key ingredient to making our signature New York-style pizza. We also feature gyros, with the region's only gyro meat spit, plus Nathan's hot dogs, calzones, and our delicious jumbo buffalo wings. Try a 14-inch or our special giant 20-inch pizza tonight. You gotta know how to fold them if you want to hold them. New York To Go, we deliver for you.
Hey Bucks fans, if you're planning an outing, birthday, or employee appreciation night, then bring your group out to the Buck Stop for a night of fast-paced, high-scoring football. Your group will receive discounted tickets, options for reserved seating, scoreboard messages, VIP services, swag, and a space to gather during the game. You can also participate in pre-game ceremonies, halftime entertainment, in-game contests, and more. Call 701-595-0771 or visit bismarckbucks.com/tickets. All GA is first come, first serve. We'll see you on the turf. Go Bucks!
All right, we're back. It's No Apologies on Beck, and I am very, very happy to have with us Geoff Simon, the Executive Director of Western Dakota Energy Association. Geoff, I've hung around you a bit over many years since I've been in the legislature, and I consider you to be extraordinarily knowledgeable when it comes to energy. So welcome.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yes, if you would let the viewers know who you are, what you're about.
Well, I began my career straight out of college with a degree in journalism. I was actually a broadcast journalism, not TV, radio, and we all love that. So I was a radio news director for the first 5 years, and in that capacity, I covered the legislature in South Dakota at that time. That evolved into a couple stints in state government, in which I dealt with public information, you know, kind of the consumer awareness sorts of topics. And one of those jobs was with the Public Utilities Commission in South Dakota, so utility regulation. So that's kind of where I first acquired a little bit of a background in energy and electric markets and energy regulation. That over time parlayed into another opportunity where I was hired by MDU Resources and Montana Dakota Utilities. I worked as a lobbyist for MDU for 17 years. Covered the legislature in Wyoming. In fact, one of my first tasks was to oppose energy deregulation in the Wyoming legislature. That's one of the very first things I did for the company. And since 2016 now, I've been executive director of the Western Dakota Energy Association, which is not associated with the energy industry, it's the energy communities. So I represent cities, counties, and school districts in the energy producing region, which includes the oil and gas counties as well as the coal counties, Mercer, Oliver, and McLean.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of the roundabout way of getting there.
Wow.
Very neat.
Wow, wow, wow. So we were just talking about Chile and deregulation, taking over industries, the call of the left in their circumstance about inequality and so forth, and comparing that to the left in the United States, which is calling for a lot of things justice, so social justice, but also environmental justice. Right. So tell us a little bit about your perspective of what's happening on the federal level right now.
Well, I tell you what, Rick, I look through a lot of things through the lens of a journalist, and you know, the biggest problem we have in this country, honestly, is the federal mainstream media.
Yep.
I mean, their
narrative is just
they're a mouthpiece for the left. I mean, they really are. We don't get any candor out of them. And that's why, you know, we talked a little bit before the show about AOC and the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal is pure fantasy. I mean, the idea that we can decarbonize our economy, we can't even hope to decarbonize our electric sector, but yet these ideas are treated as if they are somehow credible. That's a problem. I mean, that's a serious problem.
It is fantasy.
Yeah, there's no scrutiny whatsoever.
None whatsoever. No.
Cows. I'm like, seriously, who even believes this stuff, right?
Well, no one asks about it. I mean, I'll use this prop right here. This was in today's Bismarck Tribune, this article. I actually had it in a newsletter that we published last Friday. But it asks, can we transform the U.S. energy sector? The electric sector. There we go. Is the U.S. energy sector ready for transformation?
And what's their take on that?
Well, this article didn't even talk about the engineering, the technical realities of trying to replace what we have to produce electricity with whatever they think can replace it. This was all about, well, do we have enough workers? It's almost like there's an inherent assumption built into this that, you know, this renewable fantasy is absolutely credible, you know, that we could replace everything we have with wind and solar if we just put the trillions it would take and build transmission lines everywhere. I mean, it would. Yeah. I mean, it would saturate the country.
The word I'm hearing associated with these renewables is reliability.
Right.
So talk to us a little bit about the concerns regarding that. And I guess what happened several weeks ago in Texas is
it's an astonishing example, and there should be a lot of lessons learned from that. I mean, the fascinating thing about the article, it doesn't contain the word reliable. It doesn't mention reliability. It doesn't mention baseload generation. It doesn't even mention the word generation. It doesn't discuss what they would, you know, how we are going to replace what we use for electricity now.
So discuss reliable, what it means, and what the concern is, if you would.
Well, reliability just simply means we keep the lights on. It's 24/7 power, which we've come to expect in this country, and unfortunately, I think we take it for granted. I mean, we do. You flip the light switch and the lights come on. What we saw in Texas was, you know, it's interesting, the dynamics there, because the right is blaming the left and the left is blaming the right. You know, the folks on the left are blaming you know, the capitalist Republicans who deregulated the energy markets there. But at the same time, those people on the right were pressured by the left to build a whole lot of this renewable generation, just societal pressures in general, and this perception that it's cleaner than coal or natural gas or other forms of generation led to the calamity that we saw in Texas. And it was, I mean, there's a lot of fault to go around there, but I mean, we can walk through that. It started with the wind froze up. I mean, wind turbines literally, you know, failed.
Oil.
They had, you know, and then demand came up as it got colder and colder. So they ERCOT, the Texas grid, they were in a position where they needed to curtail load. I mean, they had more demand than they had supply to keep the lights on. And in the process of doing that, they did the same thing that ended up happening in North Dakota. They shut off electricity to some of the gas compressors.
Right.
And then, so now we got gas generation plants that fail. And again, now they need to drop even more load, and they're not doing that quickly enough. So coal plants started tripping out just because of the low voltage. These fail-safe mechanisms kicked in, and now coal plants went offline too. It was just, it was a cascade.
It seems that reliability for renewables really hinges on the lack of storage. Well, I'm just going to say battery storage.
Yeah.
I don't know. And so is that a problem that you see likely to be solved in the next decade or so, or is that something that's like just seems
There's
not
a lot of
possible?
battery technology out
There's battery technology, but it's not anywhere close to the scale that we would need to energize the grid. I mean, there's talk, I've heard the discussion on the Senate floor just today, of 150 megawatt battery facility in Australia that works for 2 hours.
Right.
150 megawatt.
Right.
I mean, the demand in North Dakota at any given time is in the thousands of megawatts.
Yeah.
You know, we're not even close to the battery storage technology. I mean, the simple arithmetic behind this is, if you've got 100 megawatts of intermittent generation, you need 115 megawatts of firm capacity to back that up. You know, first of all, the 24/7, 100% that you would need, but nothing is fail-safe, so you need a 15% margin on top of that. So, you know, if we're talking about this adding efficiency to the system, we've got a redundant system is what we end up having.
So Elon Musk, as wonderful as he is not going to salvage the idea of renewables taking over fossils.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. All right, Geoff, we are going to come back. We're going to continue talking about a lot of these interesting topics in energy. Hang with us, folks.
When you can't find answers to your recurring health challenges, it can feel like your health and your future are being held hostage. The Wellness Way is a network of health restoration clinics that think and act differently to solve the health challenges others can't. Here, we disrupt the standard approach to care through a combination of testing, individual plans, and one-on-one guidance, putting your health and your future where they belong, in your own hands.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
We're the ladies of Another View, bringing you a fresh view on local issues. Thank you for your patience and understanding.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that the most condescending, rude email you've ever received?
Well, welcome to
National
the third
news.
term of a certain president. I really believe that.
And different perspectives you won't get on the mainstream media. Watch us weekday afternoons at 4:30 Central Time on Beck News and at beck.news.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Every great pizza has a secret. At New York To Go, that secret lies in our perfectly recreated New York water, the key ingredient to making our signature New York-style pizza. We also feature gyros, with the region's only gyro meat spit, plus Nathan's hot dogs, calzones, and our delicious jumbo buffalo wings. Try a 14-inch or our special giant 20-inch pizza tonight. You gotta know how to fold them if you want to hold them. New York To Go, we deliver for you.
it's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
All right, welcome back to No Apologies on Beck, your after hours oasis of sanity. We are still here with Geoff Simon. I'm your host, Rick Becker. Co-host over there in the green is Lori Hintz. So Geoff, let's round out the discussion on renewables and reliability. All right, you've handed me a little paper published in February, where she's my favorite Congresswoman, AOC. Tweeted out, the infrastructure failures in Texas are quite literally what happens when you don't pursue a Green New Deal. What's your response to that?
AOC doesn't know what she's talking about. I'll just put it that kindly.
That was kind.
At the height of the freeze in Texas, I mean, and when we say freeze, it was zero.
Right.
The temperature got down to zero, but it stayed there for 3 days, and it froze everything. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, you think about it here, or just about anywhere, at those times when it's the most cold, the coldest days, and the hottest days, the wind isn't blowing. So I'm not sure how the Green New Deal and more wind generation would have helped them in Texas. And besides that, it was cloudy, so I don't think solar would have done much good either. The disturbing thing about this tweet, though, Rick, look at 430,000 likes and more than almost 7,000 people retweeted that.
Ew.
And I mean, that goes back to what I said to start this. The media has failed us because people believe what she's saying.
Exactly. Wasn't there snow that had fallen on solar panels as well?
Yeah.
So that you had that in addition to everything else. It's like no contingency.
So very quickly and succinctly, Geoff, why did North Dakotans go without power when there was an issue in Texas because of their foolhardiness?
That's pretty simple to explain, actually. The grids are modern-day socialism, the way the electric grid works right now. And parts of North Dakota, particularly western North Dakota and the areas that pump oil, are part of the Southwest Power Pool. And the Southwest Power Pool, like Texas, and the grid there, came up short. I mean, there wasn't enough electricity to meet the demand, so the order went out. It was a level 3 alert, they called it, that they needed to curtail power. And the grid manager for our part of the region is the Western Area Power Administration. They've got an office in Watertown, South Dakota, where they do this. And they got out their map, and they were looking for areas to curtail power. And, they shut off power to many of the cooperatives serving western North Dakota, which also shut off part of our energy supply, which magnified it. We lost 30,000 barrels of oil production because of it.
Wow, nobody said that. Nobody said anything about that, Geoff.
Well, another lesson learned, really.
Wow.
I would hope anyway that they, when you're short on power, don't make it worse by shutting off more power.
So that's a twist on the Marx comment that I made earlier. So from each state according to their ability to produce energy, to each state according to their idiocy in following renewable energy. So basically okay, I get it. Yeah. So that's why that happened. Hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Well,
was it a lesson though? I mean, was this something that we learned anything from?
The thing I like to talk about is North Dakota is a producer state. I mean, we produce electricity, we produce grain and other commodities, we produce oil and gas. But yet the people determining the rules are the consumers right now. And I mean, to my way of thinking, if we're a producer state, we should never be cut off because, I mean, we're the supplier. But yet we still have to share the pain the way the grid is socialized these days.
Take our excess, but not what our needs are. Yeah. All right, so let's move on. I saw a couple of comments you had with the Coal Creek Station. Yep. We're looking at Great River Energy is looking to sell it. Supposedly something might be happening here. Can you give us a quick overview of what's happening on that front?
Well, back in May last year, Great River Energy, which is a cooperative, nonprofit wholesale cooperative based in Maple Grove, Minnesota, and serves almost predominantly cooperatives in western Minnesota, or throughout Minnesota. Actually, there's 2 large cooperatives that kind of sort of determine the management strategy in the Twin Cities. And I mean, they're on a green kick. Obviously, Minnesota, there's a lot of pressure there to embrace renewables. And Great River Energy, with the help of someone who could take advantage of the tax credits, came up with the idea to just shut down probably the most efficient coal-based power plant in the upper Midwest, 1,100 megawatt Coal Creek Station between Washburn and Underwood, and replace it with 800 megawatts of wind. And then they've got some other generation in Minnesota that they would supplement as well. And then, fill the gaps with spot power from, market, off the spot market to, fill the valleys when they run up short of power. It's
wow.
Kind of a wild idea, but, it's driven by Minnesota politics, honestly.
Interesting. Very interesting. All right, next, tell me about pore space.
Oh, my.
And it's a big topic, so make it really simple. What it is, what it's about, because we had a couple bills in the legislature. That's a
little different from the electric issue we're talking about. But I mean, pore space are those areas. I mean, you think of sandstone or something like that. There are pore spaces under the ground where you can compress a liquid or a gas and push it into that underground storage area, and then bring it back up at some point when you need it, if you want to, or you can dispose of it there. I mean, most of the produced water, the salt water that comes from oil and gas wells, goes down into a sandstone formation about 7,000 feet below the earth, never to be seen again. And it absorbs, it'll hold a lot. Well, that pore space is owned by the surface owner, the landowner on the top, and that's really the kind of issue we're getting into now, because we're talking about trying to store natural gas rather than flare it, which would be a good thing if we can store it and bring it back. We're also talking about creating salt caverns to perhaps store ethane for a petrochemical industry, which would be a fantastic thing to have in North Dakota. And then we still have the produced water, so you can put gas liquids, or pure liquids, like water, into these pore spaces. The issue is compensation.
Yes.
I mean, you're using someone's land, and they should be compensated for that.
So where things are at right now in North Dakota with the legislation that has come through, are you happy with it? Do you think it's satisfactory?
Honestly, Rick, our members are a little bit on both sides of that issue. We've certainly got a lot of landowner interest among our members. Some lean toward the oil industry. Our position was purely middle of the road, but it's important for our members, so I kind of try to keep them informed about it.
And it's a new thing. I mean, you got to define the rules.
You do pay a storage unit. You do pay for a storage unit.
Well,
it's essentially storage.
They've come up, with I think a decent compromise. They're going to require, unitization, bringing all the different ownership interests together. Ordinarily requires a 55% majority, and they put 60% into the bill. So you've got to have a pretty large majority of landowners in agreement with whatever product, whatever storage project you're dealing with there. And they still have, the right to appeal if they don't agree with the compensation that's offered.
Right. So before we end this segment, I'm going to go back just for a moment on the reliability. And what you provided were some interesting graphics. I want to play those graphics. This has to do with if we were to go, like AOC and the green dealers want, if we were to move from fossil fuels to renewables, what it means as you watch there. Go ahead, Geoff, tell us what
this is what it looks like. I mean, this is the footprint you would see if we went to 100% renewables. And these are just the solar and wind installations that you would see, but on top of that you would have oodles and oodles of transmission lines that would have to connect that all to the grid.
Right.
That's part of the reason I say the Green New Deal is a fantasy, because the public is never going to accept something like that.
Yeah. So what we're seeing there is a vast amount of the surface of the United States being consumed by the infrastructure for renewable energy. All right.
The source of that, by the way, is MISO. I mean, the grid operator for a portion of North Dakota.
Okay. Well, fantastic. Very interesting. All right, we're going to come back. We're going to talk about some bills, and it's going to be very interesting. Stick with us.
We're the ladies of Another View, bringing you a fresh view on local issues.
And different perspectives you won't get on the mainstream media. Watch us weekday afternoons at 4:30 Central Time on Beck News and at beck.news.
Watch No Filter with me, Debbie Schlussel, for no-nonsense, unfiltered analysis of the news that matters to you. You'll see engaging guests.
It began a 444-day nightmare.
Entertaining analysis. And it has everything to do with something that happened in history. And honest movie reviews. Trust me, this is just atrocious. No Filter with Debbie, weeknights at 10 p.m. Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
Every great pizza has a secret. At New York To Go, that secret lies in our perfectly recreated New York water, the key ingredient to making our signature New York style pizza. We also feature Heroes with the region's only Hero meat spit, plus Nathan's hot dogs, calzones, and our delicious jumbo buffalo wings. Try a 14-inch or our special giant 20-inch pizza tonight. You gotta know how to fold them if you want to hold them. New York To Go, we deliver for you.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. I started by using the world's best cotton called Giza. It's only grown in a region between the Sahara Desert, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Nile River. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. My Giza sheets also include full 21-inch wide pillowcases that will fit over any pillow and deep pocket sheets that will fit over any mattress. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets. Giza Dream Sheets are available in a variety of colors. Use your promo code, and for a limited time, when you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
All right, welcome back to No Apologies. We're still with Geoff Simon. This is our final segment with you, Geoff. I've got I'm going to start off first. I read an article, and it quoted you as saying carbon pricing is really just virtue signaling.
It is.
Yeah, I like that.
That is a
great
quote,
deal.
actually.
So I want to just kind of pull into ESG. Lori and I have covered ESG before, environmental social governance, right? Is that correct? Okay.
Environmental, social, and governance, yeah.
Yeah.
It's socially conscious investing, I guess you'd say.
Right, and that is really
Politically
the
correct
impetus
investing.
for all of this virtue signaling. So a quick question I want to ask you is, there are several bills that deal with this. We're going to talk about some of the bills that you've been a proponent of, supportive of. My question is this a trend? Is it going to pass in the next 5 years, 3 years?
Boy, I hope not. You know, and I was asked a question in the Senate Appropriations Committee by a member whether we're just prolonging the inevitable, the demise of the coal industry. And I said, you know, I think in the next 5 years there's going to be a growing awareness that we're going to have this baseload generation. Mm-hmm. You know, people are saying, you know, North Dakota, you're going to get left in the dust if you don't get on board with this green movement. And I think we're going to be scraping those people off the road someday. We're not going to be left in the dust at all. We're maybe coming in behind them, but
I do think that pendulum is going to swing away from ESG coming right up.
Hopefully.
I wanted to talk, there are, in your newsletters, you've discussed various bills that you're supportive of, and in no particular order, well, maybe a little bit of an order. I'm going to look here. 2291, we've talked about that bill here. That is the response to the ESG.
That's right.
That was Jessica Bell's, Senator Bell's bill, and you were a strong proponent of that. I saw your testimony. Mm-hmm. Happy it passed. No, nothing there.
Well, it kind of got watered down. I mean, it was a much stronger bill. It was really, you know, intended to discourage investment in these companies that would discourage investment in our economy, more or less.
Right. Little quid pro quo.
The State Investment Board more or less said that'd be pretty doggone difficult to figure that out. But we're going to take a look at it, you know, to try to figure out where best to invest North Dakota's many funds a lot of money in the bank here.
2313, reliability. That goes back to a lot of what we were talking about previously. Where's that one at? Or?
That was another one that was, watered down, as I would say. It initially started out as a bill to require utilities to firm their capacity, which is kind of what we're talking about, to assure that they've got that base load backup to keep the lights on. It ended up actually, the Public Service Commission came in with an amendment to that bill, which I kind of like. It does allow the PSC to hire outside expertise to examine, quote, qualitative benefits of the generation assets in a utilities portfolio. And we're just talking about the investor-owned utilities, MDU, Otter Tail, and Xcel. It doesn't apply to the co-ops. But the PSC can kind of make a little bit more of a judgment as to the value of those assets and hopefully provide greater reward to those that are reliable. That's really kind of where we're going with that.
Yeah, that sounds pretty darn reasonable. 2287, coal industry insurance. This one I'm kind of wondering about. It seems to me like a beware of what you ask for bill.
Well, that one is just a study to see if the state can, in some manner help the coal industry with that. And this is again related to ESG. I mean, the insurance industry is being discouraged from, providing insurance coverage, necessary coverage, liability coverage, errors and omissions, and just protection against wind damage or whatever, can happen to these facilities. But companies are dropping out of the market and rates have gone up in some cases, according to the testimony, as much as 300%.
Wow.
And, that again is harming the competitiveness of coal and threatening that baseload reliability, which we really need.
I was thinking about having this administration being so unkind and, always after coal, and how that really has probably already affected the coal industry.
But that's a study. We'll see. I mean, it's the Insurance Commission will take a look at that.
Okay. I'm going to pop over. There's a few bills that I'm concerned about. First, I had a Facebook message. Okay. Hello, Mr. Becker. Let's see, we don't need to know exactly who he is. I've recently ran into a person that has made an accusation that you are not pro-coal or fossil fuel. I really don't believe it, but I'd like to visit with you if you would have some time. And I said, sure, we can have a conversation. The thing is that I am not pro-subsidy for anything. The best way to help coal is to stop subsidizing its competitors. The other best thing for coal is to remove government regulations that make it harder and more expensive to produce. For people who are in favor of subsidies for coal but are opposed to subsidies for ethanol, wind, solar, it seems that maybe they lack consistency of principle. I'm 100% in favor of fossil fuels. Please keep in mind it is possible to be completely in favor of fossil fuels and be a principled conservative who is not in favor of subsidies or bailouts. So my concern is this. It seems we may have somewhat of a subsidy or a bailout. In 1452, there's $40 million for grants for Clean Sustainable Energy Fund, which we're phrasing clean sustainable energy in a cute way to try and do a back-end run on these green people. So there's the $250 million low interest. Tell me, in the last minute we have here, reassure me, how are these not bailouts and subsidies for a more favored fossil fuel industry?
I look at those more like the way we've been subsidizing the wind industry. This is, the very first project that we're talking about, it's not a bill for Project Tundra, but Project Tundra is the first project that would most likely seek that financial help, gap financing to get that project going. A carbon dioxide capture and sequestration project at Milton R. Young Station. The CO2 would be sequestered. They would take advantage of a federal tax credit to make that the economics work. But I see long range. I would love to see us someday use that carbon dioxide captured from our coal plants in a synergistic way with our oil industry to extract more oil from the Bakken. It's starting a fledgling industry, if you will. That's kind of the way I look at that one, Rick.
Okay. It may be that my angle may be that it's a wrong fixing another wrong, but maybe. All right. Well, I hope, folks, I hope you found this informative. I found it very, very interesting. And Geoff, I appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Maybe we'll have another opportunity.
We got a lot more to talk about.
There's so much. I know there's so much more.
There's way more to talk about.
It's all true.
All right, stick with us, folks. We've got kind of a wrap-up, odds and ends for our next and final segment tonight.
When you can't find answers to your recurring health challenges, it can feel like your health and your future are being held hostage. The Wellness Way is a network of health restoration clinics that think and act differently to solve the health challenges others can't. Here, we disrupt the standard approach to care through a combination of testing, individual plans, and one-on-one guidance, putting your health and your future where they belong, in your own hands.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
He once won a spelling bee in an ancient language that he did not speak. He is the only man to ever earn extra credit on an IQ exam. His academic degrees are considered legitimate spending currency in 22 nations, 2 principalities, and at Chick-fil-A restaurants in the United States and Western Canada.
I do not always engage with education programming, but when I do, it is the Dr. Duke Show.
Stay educated with the Dr. Duke Show, weekdays at 4 p.m. on Beck News.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Every great pizza has a secret. At New York To Go, that secret lies in our perfectly recreated New York water, the key ingredient to making our signature New York-style pizza. We also feature gyros, with the region's only gyro meat spit, plus Nathan's hot dogs, calzones, and our delicious jumbo buffalo wings. Try a 14-inch or our special giant 20-inch pizza tonight. You gotta know how to fold them if you want to hold them. New York To Go, we deliver for you.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
All right, welcome back. It's No Apologies, our final segment. Thanks for sticking with us. This is a weird segment, kind of weird.
It's a little.
It's a mishmash.
Yes, a little convoluted.
It's a cornucopia.
It's a cornucopia of different topics too. It's all true. Well, I thought it would be good for us to go over some of the things that are going on in the legislature. Of course, every single day things are changing rapidly, and you're barreling toward sine die, so the end of the whole legislative session. So of course things are a little different every day.
Right. So one of the things that I was going to bring up is we discussed recently the $25 million that was in the appropriations bill that the Department of Health may borrow that the next legislature will pay $25 million to continue expanded testing and contact tracing. Yeah. Now, we had good discussions today. It sounds like we can hope and expect that will be removed during conference committee.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
They realized how wrong-headed and silly it was.
Yeah, and it in discussions throughout the legislature, I think that it has overwhelming support to be removed. Yeah. So that's good news, folks.
That's great news.
Good news, and your legislators are staying true to what you want, which is not to borrow money for the health department to do more contact tracing.
Excellent. Well, that's a great update. That's good news.
It is, yeah.
Happy to hear that.
And all right, 1323, if you recall, is the mask mandate prohibition. It prevents the governor and the state health officer from enacting a statewide mask mandate. It passed both houses. It now goes to Governor Burgum. The question is, will he veto it? It passed the House for the second time with a greater than 2/3 vote. It takes 2/3 to override a veto should the governor veto it.
So that should be a signal to him, you know.
But it didn't pass the Senate with 2/3.
True. That's
And
true.
there are some that will flip their vote to in line with the governor. He was asked about this, and he is not saying what he's going to do. But I found it interesting because he reiterated his belief that masks work, whatever work means.
I saw that clip as well.
But what he pointed to was, as proof that masks work, is that there is a tremendously decreased incidence of the flu, and that kids did not miss school because of sickness as much as they normally do. So I am wondering, so are you saying we should wear masks so we don't get the flu and kids don't miss school? Because that means masks forever, which tells me don't let the governor have the ability to institute mask mandates.
That's really interesting. I got that same kind of read from that too. It was very obvious that he was advocating for mask wearing as being successful, and I didn't necessarily agree with that.
Doesn't make sense. All right, also the Department of Health had a little a press release today and a presser. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine put out by Janssen, they are putting that on hold because of concerns for blood clots in the old noggin, in your brain. It sounds like it's a very, very low incidence, very unlikely.
But multiple states have had the same problem.
The problem I have is, you know, on one week they can say, people, get your vaccines, it doesn't matter, any of the three, they are completely safe. And then the next week, hey, we're not going to do this vaccine because it turns out it might not be safe. Now it may be. I'm not trying to raise false alarm. It may be, but they are pulling it. They are pulling the ability to have the vaccine. So which is it? Is it what you said last week, which is all of them are completely safe, or is it not?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that other countries have completely taken Johnson & Johnson off the shelf before it finally was, the alarm bells started ringing in the United States.
And here's the thing, it could be an overreaction.
It could be.
The problem is we have a situation in which these vaccines were not thoroughly and properly studied to know what the incidence of complications are. That's a fact, people. That is science. So anyway, that's on hold. We'll see what happens there. Also, I saw on April 1st, Bismarck Tribune had a story out. COVID is spiking in North Dakota, they said. But the wonderful thing is the Department of Health has the explanation. It is because of pandemic fatigue, spring weather, and public gatherings. So they always have the answer. They always have the answer for why it's rising, why it's falling. But the answer always changes. So I just thought that was humorous.
That
like,
is
oh yeah, we know
humorous.
why it's going up. So now it's not spring weather. I suppose it's going to drop down. And then next week when there's spring weather again, I suppose it's going to go up. All right.
Oh, that's so funny.
Okay.
Well, good thing they have all the answers. I mean, thank heavens.
Here, so there's another thing. I'm going to go in a different direction here.
Okay.
I am, and this relates to the quote you're going to see at the end of this segment. I'm going to address a couple of things. Rob Port, I don't like to mention his name. He's a blogger. He's lost his ever-loving mind. He keeps writing articles. He just can't stop. It's so weird about me and about Bastiat's. Right. So he has set up straw man arguments. He calls us Trumpian, but doesn't give any examples of what he means by that. We stand for the Republican platform. He complains that it's an ultra-secretive group and he doesn't know who the members are, but he knows that everything he doesn't like is because of Bastiat's. It is.
Ooh, boogeyman.
It is so weird. I'm not quite sure how that works.
Right.
What he's saying most recently is that Bastiat's are pushing the movement at these district reorganizations for censuring legislators and for changing out the executive committee. So I can't get in the details. We don't have enough time. But the thing is, I have zero involvement. There is no legislator I know that has any involvement in censuring other legislators or in the district reorganization and changing. Zero.
Where is he getting his information from, though?
He's making it up.
That's crazy.
He is I don't know what his motivation is, and I have theories. I don't know what his motivation is, but the man is completely off his rocker.
Here, I'm just going to give a little pro tip for people. Stop reading his stuff.
So, speaking of fake news, straw man arguments, having no integrity, and living in fantasy land, I got to bring up Joel Heitkamp.
Right.
So, Joel Heitkamp, as for those of you who have watched the show, I played videotape for you of what was said about that silly Juneteenth holiday. And I said that I'm all in favor of having a holiday, but Juneteenth doesn't make sense. I played for you how Joel Heitkamp mischaracterized, is the nicest way I can say it, totally spun it. He, after proving to the entire audience, including Joel, he has gone on to another show. He does what the leftists do, what Saul Alinsky does, which is what you do, accuse your opposition of. So he is lying and then accuses me of lying and then repeats it. So he's saying that I didn't want Juneteenth because North Dakota didn't have any blacks at the time. A lie, a proven lie. I played for you. And then out of the other side of his mouth, he says how much I lie. And I know I shouldn't give attention to these idiots.
I know. But you have to call it out because it is so false and so ridiculous.
And the problem is with his approach, some people are going to believe him.
Right, unfortunately.
And many other people are going to say, I don't know. He says this, Becker says that. They're probably both liars. So he wins by continuing to have no integrity and lying. And people like Rob Port, who have, you have a mental illness. Let me go. Let me go out of your mind. Free yourself. Free yourself from me. Rob, you're going to be such a happier person if you can do that. That's all I have.
That was really well done. Join us next time because we are finally going to get to those gun bills. We're going to talk about those, and we will also do a mailbag and an off the cuff. So join us next time on No Apologies with Becker. See ya.